and welcome to the Gazette discussion for 28 July 2021. My name is Harsh Singh and today's Gazette contains many beautiful articles. There are two videos on it. The first video contains the featured news which is on Indian Forest Act, the important amendments to it the government has proposed. So here in this featured discussion we will study what is the need for government to propose these amendments. What are the proposed amendments and what are the concerns raised, the valid concerns raised, right? So this article is a holistic article in itself. The second video is on the rest of the articles. First about non-cooperation movement, which is about this day in history. The second is the news updates. The news updates that we have. The first one is on Assam-Mizoram border dispute. The second one is on how India has improved its sustainable trade facilitation across the border. So beautiful improvement here. And the third one is Supreme Court judgment on secrecy of vote, right? Image of the day is on Dholavira and its inclusion in the UNESCO World Heritage Site, right? Terms and concept: exercise Cutlass Express being conducted off the coast of Somalia. Garib Nawaz employment scheme, right? Important one. And Thane Flamingo sanctuary being included from Maharashtra, right, as a new bird sanctuary. And Kandla SEZ, an important award it has won. Editorials of the day. Today we have two important editorials, quick and small. One on anti-trafficking law being introduced, and the second one is environmental and social governance. Today's case study is on Ela Bhat, an icon in women empowerment in the country. So let us start the discussion. This day in history has been dedicated to the non-cooperation movement. Back in 1921, on 28 July itself, the Indian National Congress decided to boycott the visit of Prince of Wales in India. And you can see very well in this image, in this picture, how the Indian population boycotted the arrival of Prince of Wales, right? So it was a non-cooperation and non-violent movement initiated by Gandhi's ideas, right? Now, right here we can understand how the movement progressed to adopt and to demand Swaraj for India. So first of all, we had Swadeshi in 1905, right? So usage of Indian products and condemnation of the international goods. And then we had non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience in 1920s and 1930s respectively. And after that, quit India in 1942, right? So right with the name itself, we can see that this is the level of aggression with Indian people growing for Swaraj, right? So non-cooperation and civil disobedience, there was a prime difference between them. Civil disobedience was about openly disobeying the laws passed by the British. For example, the salt law, right? So we disobeyed the salt law, we did not pay the taxes. Similarly, non-payment of revenue, right? So these were the important components. What was the component of non-cooperation? One good example was not going to schools, right? Another component was not going to colleges, good for youth, right? Just similar to Corona times. And another component, not going to offices, not going to law and courts, right? But this was about, civil disobedience was about disobeying them, right? So this was the prime difference. Moving ahead, new snapshot. The first snapshot is on Assam-Mizoram border dispute. Now, day in and day out, we have seen neighbors fighting, right? Neighbors fighting for parking their own car, right? Neighbors fighting, why have you thrown dust in my space, right? They fight for spaces, who has encroached whose space. Now, this fight is between two states, but on the similar grounds, right? Assam and Mizoram are fighting over the border disputed territory. Now, before we discuss the current events, we must know what is the background to it, right? So here comes the background. Now, Northeast, Assam is the major state here. You can see the area Assam occupies. And this is not what it was during the British rule. Assam also had Arunachal Pradesh with itself. Nagaland, right, Mizoram, all the Meghalaya, these all areas were part of the larger Assam state. And slowly and steadily, all these states, they asked for their autonomy and they got their own autonomy in the form of first union territory, some of the provinces like Arunachal, Mizoram, etc. And after that, independent state as well, right? So this is how it happened. However, when Britishers existed in India, so in 1875, they passed a notification of what would constitute Assam and what would constitute some parts of Mizoram. In what ways? Firstly, see, the terrain of Assam is plains. The terrain of Tripura is plain because of passage of certain important rivers, right? And even Tripura region is plains. But we have hills here, So the hilly region and the plain region got separated. And British did pass some notifications, right? So 1875 notification, the Britishers said that there would be a certain boundary between Assam and Lushai Hills. So Lushai Hills is what was the name for Mizoram back then, right? In 1933, Britishers again passed a notification talking about certain important changes in the terrain, right? Where the difference between Lushai Hills and Assam. Now, this is where the local Mizo leaders were contacted, and this is what was agreed on in 1875. But 1933, the local Mizo leaders were not contacted and agreed with, right? So they did not have their agreement, and they did not even participate in this. So also the land of Mizo was being snatched in this, the 1933 agreement. And that is the reason Mizos do not accept this agreement, they accept this particular agreement, right? So there is a dispute between Assam and Mizoram, right here, right between Assam and Mizoram, the border dispute exists. And what happens here? Because this dispute has arisen after this formation of state, especially after the formation of Mizoram state, so now the governments have decided in a way that CRPF, Central Reserve Police Force, would be placed, CRPF would be placed here, and there would be a no man's land between Assam and Mizoram, right? So no development of either of the states will happen. But you can look at the reality, right? People need spaces, right? The people who do not have area to live in, they start constructing their homes, right? If they start constructing their homes, and even if they are illegal, government will want to build roads, right? This is what Mizoram has actually done. So it was trying to build roads this time, and Assam understood it as encroaching the space, no man's space. So this is how the Assam administration tried to resolve this dispute. How did it try? It took a lot of policemen and civil and police administration, right, entered those areas of Mizoram, the border areas, and they, according to them, under quotes, they tried to resolve the matters. But Mizoram says that they forced their way in, right, beyond the point CRPF was located, right, beyond the point. So Mizo understood it as annexation of their own territory, right, and Mizoram was trying to construct a road, right. This is what Assam has also claimed. It was also said that Mizoram has also built up an armed camp, right, armed camp. So this resulted in a very disastrous civil strife between both the parties, and there were thousands of people gathered, right, lot of policemen gathered because of this kind of issue, right. So this is the situation there. Now, as I mentioned you, the background of it, right, Assam earlier had a lot of other components of the states during the previous times. So Nagaland, Arunachal, Meghalaya, Mizoram, all of them were part of it, and later they got separated, right. Now, Assam interestingly does not face only border disputes with Mizoram. It also faced border disputes with Meghalaya, Arunachal, right, with Nagaland, etc. Nagaland also, we also studied the Greater Nagaland, right, the controversy around it, right, in one of the snapshots 2 days back. And Mizoram was previously called as Lushai Hills, right. So this was the main dispute between these two parties. 1875 and 1933, the two notifications and the difference, right, all explained right here, right. Now, one important thing to note here is that Mizoram has Mizo Hills, right, and when these hills actually recede, so they will actually come to the plain areas, and this is how Assam is in the plain areas. But these almost plain areas, right, gentle slopes and flat lands, this is what was the area, and Mizoram is trying to fight for right now. So this is what this update is about. Interesting update. Now, snapshot 2 is on reforms, economic reforms, and how the international trade is carried out through digital and sustainable means. And very interestingly, India has scored phenomenally in this index, right? So this index is carried out by United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia Pacific region, right? So something related to ECOSOC, UN ECOSOC, Economic and Social Council, right? India has scored 90%, and the increase is from 78% in this particular index. This is what India has been rated on. What is this rating on? Now, a lot of border trade happens between India and other countries, right? The facilitation of border trade through online channels, right? Through transparent channels, through paperless channels, through no-face communication channels, right? If this is done, then trade gets facilitated, right? India can import a lot of articles freely, right? There is less corruption in the means, and India can also export. So is it not good for business? Yes, it is. So this is an important parameter for ease of doing business, right? Ease of doing business. We will just come to it right now. Now, ease of doing business has important parameters. Trade facilitation is one of them, right? So trade across borders. We've also studied other parameters as well, right? Like, so for example, starting a business, right? Getting electricity, registering property, getting credit, right? So these are all parameters of doing business easily in any country, and right now we are into trading across the borders, right? Okay. Now, there are five major characteristics, major parts on which India has been ranked: transparency, formalities, institutional arrangement, paperless trade, and paperless trade across the border. So these, the fifth parameter is right across the other side, right? And strikingly enough, we have received 100% transparency, right? Why not? We will receive this. If everything is made online, if everything is made put on internet, then transparency is where we will jump into, and this is what is required at other fields also, right? So this is how internet and online transactions help. Now, how was it helped with? It was helped with because of certain important measures from the government, right? For example, the first measure from the government was the Turant Custom, right? So this is from the CBIC, Central Board for Indirect Taxes and Customs, right? So this organization ensured that this Turant custom umbrella, under this everything happens quickly, right? So faceless, paperless, contactless customs. Do remember these keywords: faceless, paperless, and contactless customs. So this is one. Also, because of the corona crisis, right, everything ensured that things happen smoothly. So import of the important equipment, life-saving medicines, oxygen, right? So everything, since India needed fast, so therefore every import was expedited. It was made very fast. So this is an important factor here. And also, India dedicated a single window for EXIM trade, export, EXIM, export, import. X is an export and IM is import. So this is how this was helped, right? And India has been lauded here, not only amongst the South Asian and West Asian countries, India is rated best, but also in the European economy as well, right? So India has done far better than European economy, also surpassing the average of the OECD, right? OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, right? So India has rated far better than OECD here also, right? So what are the examples of ways we can expedite the process of trade, international trade? One good example, few good examples here, right? So having the import-export rules published, right? Publication of these rules. Achanak se, suddenly we cannot say that these are the new rules and you have to pay extra. So publication of such rules, right? Then tariff classification, risk management, right? Suppose I am transporting rice and there is more risk. So risk management has to be ensured by custom authority as well, right? So pre-arrival processing, right? Independent appeal mechanism, right? Expedited shipping, that means making the whole shipment faster, right? This ensures that the custom process is very fast. It helps in ease of doing business with the country. So India has rated very well here, right? This is the update. Secrecy of vote. Now, this article relates to Supreme Court judgment on secrecy of vote, right? What does it talk of? It says that secrecy of vote is a fundamental right, right? It is the fundamental right is what Supreme Court declared here. Now, very interestingly, this was declared on a case which was as old as 1989 from Bihar, right? In this article, we understand what is a secret vote and then highlights of the judgment. So secret vote is any vote that has been passed, any vote that has been done and it has not been revealed to the public, right? It has been anonymous, right? So this is the main fundamental right of the person, not to reveal their voting, right? Not to reveal their choices. This is called as political privacy. Now, important word you have noted here, right? Political privacy. So this is very important, and this is where Supreme Court stresses. Supreme Court says that this is a fundamental right, right? It also says that this is also indirectly a part of basic structure of constitution. Why? Because democracy and free elections are part of basic structure, and only free elections can be ensured when political privacy is there with people, right? So this is very important here. Now, the incident of booth capturing and bogus voting did happen in the past. You would be surprised to know that these are not the common things happening right now, but they were actually happening during the times of 1980s, 70s, etc. So bogus voting is when a person does not vote, somebody else votes in behalf of them, right? What is booth capturing? The whole booth is captured and votes are actually done, right? Votes are actually done, but somebody else votes on behalf of all the people of that particular area. So this is capturing of the whole booth, and this is where the Supreme Court has passed this judgment. Image of the day is on Dholavira. Why news? It is news because Dholavira has now been made 40th UNESCO World Heritage Site. What does it do with this? Now, because it is in this particular list, it will receive funding from United Nations. It will be in international tourist map, right? There will be more recognition of this place. And why is it important? What is this place about? This place is majorly about Indus Valley civilization. Now, this is the most important, probably the most important city of India in the Indus Valley civilization, and also one of the 5 most prominent areas in this civilization, right? 5 most prominent areas, but one of the most important cities. Why? Because certain important cities also went to Pakistan, right? So that is the main thing about this. Terms and concept. The first term and concept is exercise Cutlass Express. As it suggests, it is an exercise. It is not a train Cutlass Express. It is an exercise that was conducted at the Somalia coast, right? Exercise in which Indian ships also participated and all the regional navies participated, including European navies. The main idea is to enforce law in this region because a lot of trading activity happens. India also and the world over also participates in World Food Program in this area, especially in Somalia area. So we have to safeguard all the ships. That is the main idea. So therefore, regional interest, regional security and trade all has to be secured, and that is why this exercise was conducted here. Important organizations from around the world also participated, right? So International Maritime Organization, United Nations Office on Drug and Crime. Why? Because this is the place where illegal trade happens, right? Piracy happens, and all that money is utilized in drug and crime activities again. So these organizations have to be participants here. Also European Naval Force as well. And what is Cremario? So this is an organization, right, which is empowered by the European Navy itself, right? And what is EUCAP? EUCAP is European Union Capacity Building Exercise for Somalia. So this is the exercise that has been in news. Exercise Cutlass Express. Second term and concept, Garib Nawaz Employment Scheme. Now this scheme, first of all, let me ask you, Maulana Azad Education Foundation. It looks to be an NGO, right? It is not an NGO. So do remember, this is an autonomous organization under the Ministry of Minority Affairs, right? So an autonomous organization has implemented Garib Nawaz Employment Scheme. This scheme is not new. This scheme was introduced in 2017. So this is an old scheme. But what is in news is that it has now opened 371 training centers. What does it do? So it trains the minority community youth, right, to enable them to have jobs. And the best part about them is that they not only train, but they also ensure that these youth are employed. So 70% minimum placement is mandatory through this particular scheme. This is in news. So remember, Garib Nawaz Employment Scheme. The third snapshot for today is Thane Creek Flamingo Sanctuary. Now this sanctuary has been designated as a Ramsar site. That is why in news, right? Now it is important to note that the areas which are at the border of land and marine sphere, now they have special capacity. Why? Because these areas generate special evolution for the flora and fauna of this region. So one good example of this is the mangrove vegetation, right? So they are capable of surviving even in water and even without water, right? Similarly, these flamingos, these birds, right? So they not only participate in building the ecosystem, they all participate in rejuvenating and recovery of the ecosystem, right? And therefore, this area now has been designated as Ramsar site, right? So wetland of international importance under Ramsar Convention of 1971. This is also an important bird area, right, under the Bombay Natural History Society. This was in news. This was also asked by the government UPSC exam, our own exam, right, a few years back. So this is an NGO, one of the oldest NGOs in India, opened back in the 19th century, 1880s, right? So this is in news. The next term and concept is Kandla SEZ. Special Economic Zone. So first of all, we should understand what is a Special Economic Zone. It is a domestic area only, right? It is an Indian territory only. It is not a foreign area. And the idea here is to maintain trade balance. Now, India is the country which is importing more and exporting less. So India has to try to export more. So these are special areas created inside a domestic territory, yet they have certain norms, taxation norms, right? Investment norms, which help in exporting the product, right? So tax won't be charged if we export the product from these terrains, but if we include them in, if we start purchasing them in India itself, then they will be taxed, right? They will also create employment. So there are multiple benefits. Now, why is it in news? Kandla SEZ is in news because it has been designated platinum rating by the Indian Green Building Council, right? So this important council has rated the whole Kandla SEZ as platinum rating for green building ratings. So here we have to understand what is this platinum rating about. Now, if a building has been constructed, right, and we have to use internal electricity for this, if we have to use a geyser here, even when there is sunlight and it can heat the place, if we have to use an air conditioner to cool this place, so this is not something that is called as energy efficiency, right? If there is sun, we can utilize this energy. It can actually light this lamp. It can be helped to heat the water. It can also be helped to run the AC. So we have to utilize the whole structure in a way that there is efficiency in energy. This is one of the requirement of green building itself. Suppose there is earthquake, the whole building actually comes down. So this is not a green building then in that ways, right? If there is vent for light to come in, for air to come in, this will help the building itself, right? So these are the components of having a green building, right? And platinum is the best rating that is awarded, and the whole SEZ has been awarded the platinum rating. Platinum, gold and silver, these are the three ratings, and platinum rating is for global leadership. This is the kind of infrastructure we have created at Kandla, right? And then gold is for national excellence, and then silver is okay, good, outstanding. So these are the three ratings we have in the green building ratings, right? The idea is to ensure water efficiency, energy efficiency, health and comfort, innovation and facility management, right? So these are the criteria which has been taken to give platinum rating to our Kandla SEZ. So this is located at Bhuj area. You should note that Bhuj is in the Kutch area. So water scarcity is an issue. This also is an area of earthquake proneness, right? Now that is the reason that it was specially applauded. So water conservation, afforestation, these were important measures which were also taken in to give this place a platinum rating. So very important. And now see, I have explained you only Kandla, not only Kandla SEZ in news, but also explained SEZ, also explained about Bhuj area, also showed you the map of Bhuj, also spoke about IG, Indian Green Building ratings. So these are multifaceted aspects of the same news, but they can be used in many different kind of articles as well, right? Prelims and mains. So utilize this video in a way that you are able to write down the important keywords, right? Important keywords are different for everybody else, for each and everybody of you. So therefore, you can note down according to your requirements. Editorials of the day. The first editorial for today is on anti-trafficking law. During COVID times, there has been an increase, a phenomenal increase in trafficking of children, of the members of society, and this has actually resulted in government initiating an anti-trafficking law to penalize the traffickers, right? So this new bill addresses social economic causes of this crime. This also talks about the punishment that has to be given. It also talks about the rehabilitation, right? The recuperation of the person, of the child especially, who has been trafficked, right? So they are the various aspects this bill has addressed, right? Now we should also note, the article speaks that child trafficking is only the beginning. It is only the edge of this huge iceberg, right? Below this iceberg, if the child has been trafficked once, and then we can see a lot of snowball effect. That means the whole issue becomes so big, because the same child can be involved later in the black economy, right? Child marriages can happen, beggary, prostitution, corruption, terrorism, right? Illegal business, all of it are indirectly or directly related to trafficking of children. Even if children have been saved after trafficking, right, since they go to children home and after the age of 18 they cannot stay in those children home, where did they go? Are they enabled enough? Are they skilled enough? Are they educated enough? No. If they're not, they will end up in prostitution. They will end up as bonded labor. They will end up in drug related crimes, right? Illegal activities. So this is why this new law has been initiated by the government. Okay. So important article. The second article is on ESG. What is ESG? Important technical term, right? Environment and social governance, right? This is also mixed with corporate governance. So the idea is to ensure that the corporates participate in environment and social governance. All their projects should not be just about profit making. It should also lead to development in the society and environment as well, right? So this is where the article talks about sustainability in these kind of projects, right? The article says that CRISIL has rated many, around 250 listed companies on this ESG governance parameter. And one should note that there has been a lot of investment lately in India in ESG sector itself, right? Environmental and social governance in corporate sector. So from 2006, the investment was 6 trillion. Now 2021 we have $110 trillion investment. So you can very well note almost 20 times increase in investment in this particular sector. So this is where the article says that this kind of investment goes a long way. Right? For example, let me give you an example here. Coal sector. There's less investment in coal sector. Why? Because it is dirty. Because it leads to dirtier products outside. Also gives us energy, right? But then less investment here because there is less sustainability for future. So this is where the article also highlights how the ESG investment is very good for the country. So first of all, it leads to productivity. It leads to risk management, risk resilience. What a word to use in answers, right? Fetch you marks. So it leads to compliances, international and the national governance norms, right? So capital infusion in these sectors becomes more. It leads to a better public image of that particular sector, of that particular organization, right? Imagine you saying that I will not use plastic, right? I will not use the vehicles, right? Although you will have to walk, but people will appreciate you, right? So this is what is also applicable for industries. Look at it from that angle, and you will realize that ESG is a very important thing now of the day, right? Now ESG is also been promoted in multiple ways. For example, now there is a new nifty ESG, right? So it rates the company along with the ESG parameters. Kotak committee also recommended ESG to be a part of the corporate governance. So this is what it is. Case study of the day. Today's case study is on an important lady, Ela Bhat. So she is Ela Bhat and she is in her 80s right now. She was born in 1930s and a very important figure for women empowerment in the country. She has studied English, she has studied law, and she later participated in the women movement in Gujarat. How? She became one of the legal consultants in the institutions which was into textile manufacturing, right? Textiles in Gujarat, and she started to fight for women rights, right? So later she created this organization called as SEVA, Self-Employed Women Association, and this is now 1 million strong. So 10 lakh females are a part of this organization. Imagine you being an IS officer and being able to impact people in the similar way, right? So you have got a similar opportunity just like Ela Bhat had and she has, right? What does it talk about? It talks about her dedication to work for society, for others, right? She also went abroad to study, but selflessly she came back to India, participated, fought for others' rights, especially female rights. So this is where we can right away use the example of Ela Bhat, right? Whenever we talk of empowerment, we can use an example. Why only Gandhi and why only Vivekanand? We can use these people who are actually present amongst ourselves and doing this kind of work, right? So at grassroots level, poverty alleviation, participation in women activities and Gandhian principles. What else do we require for case studies, right? So Ela Bhat, remember this saying, right? If somebody asks, you can present a history on her now, right? So very good. Keep watching and keep commenting. Thank you.